Thank you very much, Chairman Levin, Ranking Member Camp, and members of the committee. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here today to testify, not only on behalf of our members in the Steelworkers Union, but on this occasion, on behalf of the AFL-CIO, whose affiliates represent almost 12 million workers across this great country, and Thea Lee, the Chief of Staff to President Trump, who will be here should I have to leave before the finish of the hearing. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I may tend to be a bit passionate about this. I think the time for talk is over. In the real world where I live, this is a crisis. It's a manufacturing crisis, it's a trade crisis, it's an economic crisis, and maybe most of all, it's a jobs crisis. And we believe that China's currency manipulation has not only directly harmed manufacturing workers, but it has also contributed significantly to the job loss and wage stagnation felt by teachers, firefighters, transit workers, and myriad of other workers across the country. The harm is economy-wide, and it requires an economy-wide solution. We believe that enactment of the Currency Reform and Fair Trade Act would be a vital step to continue the process of economic recovery and would be the message that is needed to send a signal that enough is enough. I want to commend Chairman Levin for his leadership on this issue and to highlight, Mr. Chairman, a statement that you made. There is no real question that China's deliberately undervalued exchange rate is unfair, contributes to global trade imbalances, and cuts across the United States jobs and economic growth, particularly in the manufacturing sector. I want to repeat, and we agree, there is no real question that this is occurring. The issue before us is not the diagnosing of the problem. We know what that problem is. Simply stated, China's currency practices provide as much as a 40% subsidy for the products they send here. And let's be equally clear, with the administration's desire to double exports, it's an equal tax on U.S. products we're trying to sell on their market. The question we need to confront now is, do we have the good sense, the capacity, the will to act to level the playing field, to defend our national interest, and to provide the support and assistance that millions of workers and their communities expect and deserve? America needs this action by this committee now. American workers need this action now. The fact that workers are hurting is no secret. The economy has remained mired in a deep recession, not of any workers' doing. Official unemployment stands at 9.6%, but unofficial employment with underemployed and discouraged workers is close to 27 million. 25 million of those members are suffering every day. Compensation is flat or declining. Factories are idle. Important public services are at risk, not only our basic infrastructure and services, but from the education of our children and the safety of our citizens. Income distribution is at its most skewed level since the Gilded Age. The old cliche about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer is now undeniably true, and we believe this contributes to that. Clearly, things are out of whack. Middle-class America is under siege and is understandably losing faith in their representatives to make a difference in their lives regardless of party. But these numbers don't tell the real human cost. 57,000 plants have closed since the passage of PNTR for China. Close to 6 million manufacturing workers have lost their jobs since the passage of PNTR and China's accession to the WTO. 2.5 million of those workers in the last 2 years. Despite the bad news, this committee has made a major contribution to the efforts to address this economic crisis through the Economic Recovery Act, health care reform, aid to state and local governments, unemployment insurance, infrastructure investments, and many other important initiatives. Together, these measures have helped resolve and reduce some of the pain. But more is needed. and it needs to be done now. But let's understand that the impact of China's currency manipulation is deep and broad. It directly affects our nation's budget deficit. 2 weeks ago, I sent a letter to Capitol Hill indicating that addressing China's currency manipulation would reduce the federal budget deficit for those deficit hawks by as much as $500 billion over the next 6 years. $500 billion. So why failing to support action on China's currency manipulation means that one is willing to support massive budget cuts, tax increases, or both. It directly affects our national security. China's actions have resulted in hundreds of billions of dollars in additional funds the government has to invest in its military buildup that, according to our Defense Department, quote, poses unknown risks. If China fuels its communist leadership control over the country, make no bones about it. Failure to take action directly keeps their export-led growth an engine humming along and fills the federal coffers of China. It allows the communist leadership to maintain an iron grip on its people, suppressing basic worker rights and trampling on their basic freedoms. Failing to act is directly linked to rising trade deficits here, slower growth, and economic damage every day. So while I'd be happy to answer your questions on behalf of our members and the AFL-CIO and those other unions that I'm privileged to represent today, I have a question to elected leaders. If not now, when? If not you, then who? Why won't somebody do something? Now is the time. It's time to support American manufacturers, American communities, American workers, and the American economy. America deserves this action. But ladies and gentlemen, America's workers and domestic manufacturers deserve it too. This is not a technical issue. We know that they're abusing it. We know they're violating the rules. This is not about continuing to talk for another year or year and a half. This is about this committee and this Congress taking some action now and telling America's trading partners enough is enough is enough. Thank you very much.